Obina Okafor was a man many people admired. He was wealthy, powerful, and respected across cities and borders. He owned companies that traded goods across countries, and money never lacked in his home. Obinna lived in a large compound that reflected his success. The house was always busy, always full. He had 2 wives, Niru, the elder wife, and Zainab, the younger. On the surface, the household was peaceful. Meals were shared, greetings were polite, and visitors often praised the harmony in the home. But beneath the smiles lived unspoken tension, the kind that did not need words to be felt. In their culture, wealth meant little without children. A man's legacy was counted in sons and daughters, not just buildings and businesses. For over 10 years, Niru and Zainab had lived with the same painful truth: they had no children. Pity-filled looks greeted them at gatherings. Some blamed fate, others blamed the women. At night, when the house was quiet, the pain felt heavier. Niru carried hers in silence and prayer. Zainab carried hers with restless thoughts and hidden anger. The house stood strong, but its foundation was cracked. Obinna's business kept him on the move. One week he was in Ghana, the next in Dubai, then Europe or Asia. Sometimes he stayed away for months, chasing contracts and building his empire. His absence became normal. Whenever Obinna returned, the house came alive. Drums were beaten, food was prepared in excess, and laughter filled the compound. Gifts arrived in boxes, jewelry, fabrics, perfumes, and foreign treats. Obinna always shared them fairly. He loved both wives and made sure neither felt less important in his eyes. Yet, when the celebrations ended and he left again, silence returned. While Obinna travelled the world, the women remained in the same house. Barrenness weighed heavily on both women, but in different ways. For Niru, it was a quiet ache that lived in her heart. She watched other women carry babies on their backs and smiled, even when it hurt. At night, she whispered prayers, asking God not for riches, but for a child she could call her own. Zainab's pain was louder inside her. She felt forgotten, incomplete, and afraid. Each passing year made her fear that Obinna's love would one day change. One day, the change came quietly. At first, Niru thought it was stress or age. But as days passed, her body told a different story. When the doctor confirmed it, she sat in silence, unable to breathe properly. After more than 10 years of waiting, Niru was pregnant. Further tests brought even greater news. She would give birth to a baby boy. When Obinna heard, he dropped his phone and laughed like a child. He knelt in thanksgiving, praising God for remembering his household. That night, he ordered a small feast and shared the news with close friends. From that moment, everything changed. Obinna treated Niru like fragile gold. He bought her fine clothes, new jewelry, and special meals. He checked on her daily, even while traveling. His voice softened whenever he spoke to her. Zainab smiled and congratulated her, but her heart burned. The joy she felt at first slowly turned bitter. She watched the gifts arrive, watched the attention shift, and felt something ugly rise inside her. For the first time, she feared that Niru's miracle might become her own loss. As Nkiru's belly grew, so did Zainab's restless thoughts. Zainab wanted everything Nkiru had, not just the pregnancy, but the love, the respect, the new status in the home. She feared that once the child arrived, she would become invisible. The thought scared her deeply. Outwardly, she remained kind. She smiled, helped with chores, and asked about Nkiru's health. But behind her smile lived dark thoughts she never spoke aloud. At night, she lay awake, replaying every moment, feeding her jealousy with fear. As the delivery date drew close, Obinna was called away for an urgent business trip. He promised to return in time, but business delayed him. With a heavy heart, he left, trusting that everything would be fine. Labor came suddenly in the night. Nkiru screamed, cried, and prayed until a baby's cry filled the room. A healthy baby boy was born. They named him Chinedu, meaning God leads. The news was sent to Obinna immediately. He wept with joy on the phone and sent money for celebration. The house filled with visitors, songs, and food. But behind the joy, Nkiru was tired and weak. Her body was still healing. A few days later, the baby began to cry differently. His body grew hot, and his cries became soft and weak. Fear returned to the house. What no one knew was that this sickness would become the doorway to a terrible betrayal. When Zainab noticed that baby Chinedu was getting weaker, she moved quickly. Her face showed worry, her voice soft with concern. She told Nkiru that the baby needed urgent medical attention. "You are still weak," she said gently. "Let me take him to the hospital. You need rest." Nkiru hesitated, but pain and exhaustion clouded her judgment. She trusted Zainab. After all, she was family. With shaking hands, she handed over her child, whispering prayers as Zainab wrapped him in a blanket and left the house. But Zainab did not go to any hospital. She drove to a quiet guest house on the outskirts of town, a place she had prepared in advance. The room was cold and silent. There she brought out a small bottle she had hidden for days. Her hands shook, but her heart was hardened by jealousy and fear. She poured the poisoned substance into the baby's mouth. Chinedu cried weakly, then his body went still. Panic rushed through her, but she convinced herself it was over. She wrapped the child tightly and drove straight to the morgue. Without asking questions, she dropped the baby off, claiming he had died suddenly. She said, "You can bury him. I don't have a place for burial." From her bag, she pulled out money and handed it to him. She walked away quickly, her heart pounding. In her mind, the problem was solved. The house would return to how it used to be. She did not look back. At the morgue, Dr. Hassan Bello began his routine examination. He had seen many lifeless bodies, but something felt wrong the moment he touched the baby. The child's skin was cold, but not stiff. His chest moved slightly, almost unnoticed. Dr. Hassan froze. He checked again and heard a faint breath. The baby was alive. Without wasting time, he called for help. Nurses rushed in as the baby was quickly transferred to the hospital. Doctors worked urgently, pumping out the poison and giving oxygen. The baby fought silently, his tiny body refusing to give up. Hours passed. Monitors beeped softly. Then, slowly, the baby responded. His breathing became stronger. Against all odds, Chinedu survived. Back at home, Zainab returned with tears in her eyes. She told Nkiru the baby had died on the way to the hospital. The words cut deep. Nkiru screamed and collapsed, her world shattering in one moment. She blamed fate, blamed herself, and never once suspected Zainab. The house fell into mourning. When Obinna returned, he was broken. He held his grieving wife and cried like a man who had lost his future. Zainab watched quietly, fear hiding behind her tears. Obinna asked to see his child at the morgue. Zainab panicked. She tried to stop him, saying the baby was too young and had already been arranged for burial. Her voice trembled as she spoke, but Obinna refused. Anger rose in him. Something did not feel right. He demanded to be taken there immediately. Zainab had no choice. As they walked into the morgue, the truth waited silently, ready to destroy lies and expose the darkness hidden behind a smile. The moment they entered the morgue, Dr. Hassan stepped forward, his face serious but calm. He looked at Obinna and said words that froze everyone in place. "Your child is alive." Nkiru screamed, thinking it was a cruel mistake, but moments later, a nurse brought them to the hospital ward. There, lying quietly on a bed with tubes and monitors, was baby Chinedu. Weak, but breathing. Alive. Obinna fell to his knees in tears. Nkiru held her child and cried uncontrollably, thanking God over and over again. The doctors explained that the baby had been poisoned but survived by a miracle. The poison should have killed him, but it did not. As the truth unfolded, all eyes turned to Zainab, her face drained of colour. The weight of her actions crashed down on her all at once. She could not speak. She could not cry. Guilt wrapped around her like chains. That night, Zainab locked herself in her room. By morning, she was found lifeless. Beside her was a letter. In it, she confessed everything, her jealousy, her fear, and the crime she committed. She wrote that she could not live with what she had done or face the truth. The house went silent once again, but this time with understanding. Justice had spoken. Love had survived. Evil had been exposed. And though grief remained, the story ended with a powerful reminder. Darkness may hide for a while, but it never stays hidden forever.